Yes, we are.
Alrighty, welcome everyone on this nice, chilly, somewhat snowing Wednesday. District Seashell Committee of the whole meeting for February 10th, 2021. Let's call the meeting to order and ask if there's any declarations of conflict. Seeing none, call for anyone to move to adopt the agenda. Moved, seconded, all in favor? No appointments or delegations, no new business, unless somebody would like to add something for new business. No? Okay. Over to 5.1, Director Douglas, I think you're on deck.
Thank you, Councillor. So today we have a small agenda going through some of the departments. We're going to talk about their work plans, their priorities, and staff requests today. And this is not quite half the departments, about half the departments today, and we'll do the remainder in 2 weeks at the next meeting. I'm just going to share my screen and go through my PowerPoint presentation. So these are the departments that we're going to review today, and we have the managers or the directors coming in to talk about their priorities. This is just really an overview of where we're starting out from. The column to 2021 draft budget, showing right now a $732,000 deficit before we add too much. There are a few things that are incorporated into this budget, and I'll just quickly describe those. So staff have gone through, and we reviewed all the professional development for the year for each department, and where we know there's virtual meetings, they've been budgeted as such, or virtual conferences. Where we didn't know, like if there's a conference late in the fall, we left it as a travel conference for now. But as we get to know more and more, we will adjust this budget accordingly. Increases to Hydro Fortis fuel we've calculated, as well as the cell phones as well. Included in this budget is the chief building official salary and benefit lift, the senior engineer lift from last year. The GIS coordinator is a 6-month lift as well. We had that person had been off for the first 6 months of last year, and so we only budgeted for 6 months last year, and we're putting them back in fully this year. Wage increases tied to agreements. Additionally, we talked at a previous meeting about some of the one-time costs, and the ones that have been added were the ones that were recommended. We added $74,000 for one-time costs for RCMP. The budget currently includes a new member at $130,000, and includes future estimated district liabilities around members, whether it's pay liabilities or retirement liabilities of $41,421. Additionally, we've included an additional $25,000 to bring the contingency back up. We'd reduced it to $75,000 last year, so we're back up to $100,000 for this year. We have estimated the cost for solid waste starting October, November area. There's no tax impact to that, but it has been budgeted appropriately. Parks extra washing cleaning for 22,500. We're looking at covering some of these additional costs with COVID grant, but that will come later in the budget process. We have new debt payments for the plotter and dump truck at $20,000. On the revenue side, we've included an additional 53,000 due to new construction from last year. I do expect that number to change. I don't have a sense whether it's going to go up or down, but I think it might go up a little bit. But I also think that the final numbers from new construction will be different than what I got 2 weeks ago. And then a small increase in the 1% utility operating fees. So that's basically what's been included from one year to the next. And from here on, we will talk about what we would like to have added, and we'll work through, council motions to see what council would like to see added, and come up with a number at the end with a tax increase that would need to cover that. So the first party up today, we have the corporate services. So I believe Joanne's here to talk about the corporate services department. And so I will just keep quiet here and let Joanne speak, and I'll do your slides for you, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hi, Council. Last year around this time when Council was doing budget deliberations and I made a presentation, I went in depth with the corporate services division's roles and our 3 staff's responsibilities. So I'm not going to do that today. I think we will, in an effort of saving time, I'll just move on to more of a brief. Oh, back. So oh, could you go back, please, David? So just, I've outlined here what our basic core services are in our department. We look after legislative services for council and departments. We oversee everything to do with records management, electronic records, as well as paper records. We look after liability insurance claims and litigation that comes along with that. We look after the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act requests that we get pursuant to the Act, and just overall general corporate support to all the other departments. Next slide, please. So what I am going to summarize here today is what the special projects are that we will be working on in our work plan over the year. And by special, I mean something that, only comes around once in a while, not anything to do with our routine responsibilities, and that will take up a lot of our time during the time period that we're dealing with it. I will elaborate on these projects in the next slides, but basically there's 4 of them that I've listed there. First one is OnBase. We're still working on implementation of our OnBase records management system across the entire organization. So we're at this stage working on that. The alternative approval process, that's underway through this first quarter and will go into the second quarter of this year. Renewal of the SDBA Business Improvement Area bylaw. The current Business Improvement Area bylaw that SDBA has with the district expires at the end of this year. So we will be, through the last half of last year and through this quarter and in the months to come, we will be working with the SDBA towards implementing a new bylaw. First steps will be to bring a report forward to council. So council will be seeing more information about that. And then, the whole process as it proceeds will take us pretty much through the whole year in terms of time frame in our work plan to work on this project. And then the 4th project is completing an audit of all outstanding agreements and leases that we have and preparing new agreements as needed. Next slide, please. So continuing with implementation of OnBase, we've turned our mind to the administration departments, planning and engineering. Finance, we, as council is aware, we spent most of last year getting finance up to a point where all their staff are using OnBase only, and they're saving and retrieving their documents through OnBase. We use them as the, you know, our project implementation plan was first tried out in the finance department. They were our guinea pigs, I guess, and it worked out really well. So we're basically using the same plan to move on through the other departments. And that will include needing to train staff across those departments so that they're using OnBase completely. Continuing with digitizing current existing paper files in the office and digitizing permanent records stored in the archives building. With the potential to receive COVID-19, or with the COVID-19 recovery funds monies that we've received, I'm in the process of preparing an RFQ, and David will have that in a further report down the line that he's going to bring forward to council with all our suggested projects to use the COVID-19 funds for. And I'm working on an RFQ right now to go out and get quotes, with the idea that if council approves us using some of the recovery funds for that, we will hire a contractor to assist with implementing OnBase. We would be looking at hiring a company to literally lead the project, much more than, you know, sort of all those bullets there, all the particular aspects of implementation. Hire a company that would look after all of that, with staff support as needed, of course, but to help us implement OnBase as
Looks like we might have lost Joanne for a minute.
Are you still there, Joanne? Are you able to take over, Director Douglas?
Am I gone still?
Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
I shut my VPN off and stuff. Maybe that helps. Okay.
You're back.
Okay. Next slide, the alternative approval process. So we're dealing with that through this quarter, and depending on the results of the AAP, there will be next steps. There will, you know, if the AAP is successful, there's a number of steps we then need to take to actually proceed with the borrowing. We need to get a security issuing bylaw in place with the Sunshine Coast Regional District, because all borrowing actually flows through them. Or we'll be looking at whatever next steps council wants to take, depending on the results of the AAP. So that'll be sort of take us through this first quarter and into the second quarter of our year in our work plan. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the new, looking at a new Downtown Business Association Business Improvement Area bylaw. I am working on that with SDBA now, and as I mentioned in the earlier slide, that this project will basically take us throughout the year, more intense maybe through this first and second quarter of the year, but then towards the end of the year, we'll be busy with that again. Next slide, please. And then the outstanding agreements. So this has been an ongoing project that we've been doing sort of in conjunction with OnBase implementation. We want to be able to better use OnBase to track provisions in agreements. Right now, we can print a list that says when agreements are going to expire, but that's about all the information we've collected. So we're doing sort of a deeper dive into creating an actual little I don't know, database within a database maybe, but where we can track all the other terms in the agreements. There are certain requirements, such as every year we're supposed to send a report out to the province, if it's a lease that we have with the province, for example, or if it's, or where we are requiring copies of group's liability insurance, if it's a group that's renting facilities from us, and those types of things. So this is an ongoing project that will probably take the first half of this year, if not longer, maybe even into the third quarter of this year to complete. And I think that's the end of my slides, David. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is just a representation of the department that we're talking about. Under the Chief Administrative Officer, we have the Corporate Officer, Records Technician, and the Administrative Assistant.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions that any of the council might or mayor might have of Joanne? Mayor Seegers?
Actually, I had a question for Dave on his presentation. You had a solid waste number there. I know that we're looking at implementing organics this year. Is that included in there as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then, yeah.
So there's no tax implication on that. It's covered by fees and charges, and we'd set up a small reserve for when we had some surplus, and so we're going to draw a little bit of that back down, but there's no tax increase or planned garbage increase for that.
Okay. And then one other question, you said something about the new construction. You've got a preliminary number from them, but you anticipate it's going to change. When do you think you'll have a final number? What's kind of the timing with them?
Probably by middle to end of March, I usually get the completed roll.
Okay.
Give me early March.
Thank you.
So, just looking at the numbers now for corporate services, from a numbers perspective, the corporate services include kind of 4 areas. We have corporate services themselves, we have risk management, we put the COVID preparedness in there, elections, and common services. And so just to quickly go through that, the elections, that 7,500, that's a transfer to reserve so we just transfer little bits each year. So then when the election comes, then we don't really see any further tax adjustment in the election year. Common services, that's all the central office costs that we would have, like couriers and Xerox, internet, the main telephone system here, bank charges, supplies and small equipment. Included in the 171,000 there is $70,000 for depreciation on just the assets that are within the office. Going up to risk management, there's I think the budget here overall has come down just a little bit, but this area includes legal fees, any special projects regarded or related to liability. Our insurance is in the risk management, and claims, any claims paid out, or we budget for an amount for small claims that need to be paid out. And then in corporate services, of course, is Joanne and her staff, and there's some legal there as well, and some contracted services around OnBase and other projects.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McLean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just so I'm understanding where we're at, for the contract services, we proposed to or I guess Joanne mentioned about using COVID funds to fund hiring a contractor for OnBase integration. That would not be included in the budget presented here. Is that correct?
We have an amount we're carrying over from last year, but we can look at that as we go forward with our planning with the COVID funds. So that is it's $15,000 that may be able to be taken out, yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to work on why the contract services line item is going down. I have two different numbers. The one on screen is 96,000 and I have 4,000 on my report. I think the one on the screen might be outdated, but either way, it is going down by a fair chunk. So what's the cause for that?
So that is comes from risk management.
Okay.
And we had a contract that was paid before by grant funds last year, and that was about 200,000. And then we have another contract going on right now that's worth about $160,000. That's also being funded from a grant.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, with Dave's sort of preamble to this presentation, you mentioned in there the increase for an RCMP member. Given that we're not expecting an RCMP member necessarily until 2022 with the way that their budget process works, is that increase for a full FTE, or is that just a partial FTE as a placeholder for the end of 2021?
So I've been having an email conversation with the RCMP over that to try and get clarity, because so what happens is when we made the request early enough that when they sent us what budget they want us to put into our budget, they had the new member in there. And so it's almost like instruction from them, like, you made the request, now put it in your budget. And so I've been going back and forth over the last 3 days to get clarity on that. And it's looking like his recommendation is maybe make it half this year at this point. So we would take it from the full down to a 0.5 under recommendation. We could make further reductions, and it just makes we would have to engage with the province to see where we are in that the stage of them talking with the federal government and figuring out, if we're going to get the ad this year or next year.
And then I guess the quick follow-up to that is, of course, as a reminder, if we don't expend that money in the RCMP section this year, that goes into our public safety reserve, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? No, looks good. Okay, onward you go, Director Douglas.
Hey, thank you. So we're on to human resources, and Lindsay is here to talk to that.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So just this first slide is just an overview of everything the HR department offers. Full cycle recruitment, OH&S, performance management, training and OD, and then the employment engagement and comp and benefits. We'll get into that in a little more detail in the next slide here. Yeah, so just as part of my work plan, I would say that I started on this work plan in 2020 and got a little bit derailed with COVID and then just the support needed to put some of these things in place. For OH&S, we're looking to get a new OH&S program in place. So starting fresh and tailored to what the District of Sechelt would need. So completing those manuals, as well as then having an annualized training calendar to make sure that everybody for their work is properly trained for their job and that that's kept up to date. And then just keeping the district up to those standards. And then just keeping a complete action plan for COVID-19. That's kind of something that is on the side of my desk, but it remains a high priority based on our current climate. Full cycle recruitment, that's recruitment and retention really. We've had a big increase in our staffing complement, particularly in our senior management team, just to fill some gaps that we had. And so trying to make sure that our job postings reflect our current needs and what we, just to make them more professional so that we're ensuring that we're grabbing the best interest of the candidate caliber out there, as well as retaining those candidates. So once we have them here, do we have a great onboarding system? Do we have all the pieces in place to make this a desirable place to work and stay? And then standardized recruitment packages and rating scales. So right now I'm doing that sort of ad hoc to make sure that we have a defensible system for our recruitment strategy. And so that's consistent moving forward, but there isn't something in place for each job at this time. Onboarding, I spoke a little bit about that, but just having a clean system. So Beth and IT and I are working on a system that can live in OnBase and can be entirely online. We started to do that with our most recent hire, and we'll hope to get there shortly. And support for organization-wide project work. That's the next slide, please, Dave. So this little graphic is just to represent sort of where we are now. We have the people in place, the future looks bright, but we need to make sure that we keep the cogs turning. Again, speaking a little bit to retention, if we have the right employee engagement and the right processes in place, I believe that we can keep our staff and keep the culture positive and productive, but that's going to take some work. So performance management, we just started a new performance review process this year, and so that's being tracked and then followed up with a training program. So meeting with each team and talking about their goals and just creating a better team culture, and then reviewing and implementing an attendance management program. So that's not something that we have currently, and if I'm honest, it'll end up on the back burner with the support that I have right now. But the attendance management program is looking at the efficiencies of the organization. So when we have somebody that goes off on leave, and we had more this year than we've had in quite some time, are we backfilling those positions? And why aren't we backfilling those positions? And why are people going on leave? Is that something that we can be preventing, just as well as sick time? And then succession planning. So there has been a bit of work and talk about this in the past, but really making a concerted effort. We have some people coming up to retirement. We have positions that are opening up. Do we have the people in place? Are they trained? Do we have the resources to make that happen? Right now, it's a bit of a question mark and something that we're really focused on. And then training OD. So continuing that management and leadership training. We have people in good places in a lot of roles, managers. However, did they have the management and leadership training needed to be successful in those positions? And if they don't, what does that look like? So I'm trying to get ahead of that and make sure that we have some really strong management and leadership training. And we started that with some emotional intelligence work in January, and we'll be continuing that at the end of the month. And then looking at personality indicators. So that's really just, I wrote that in there because I'm going to move to a place with the district that we have something that everybody can get on board with, whether that's Myers-Briggs training or Insights, just a software program that we can get to know our staff a little bit better, and they can get to know their colleagues better, and we can all be in a place where we can move forward together. And we have a bit of an uphill battle with culture, as does any organization. And so I think that'll really help us tie together that. And then just specific ongoing training. I have a lot of asks often for training, and not a lot of time to get to it sometimes. So I would like to make sure that IT feels supported, the WRC feels supported. I want to make sure that, again, that ties back to the occupational health and safety training, but just it goes beyond that too. So what kind of training do we need? Is there violence in the workplace training, or there's a plethora of different training opportunities. Thank you. And then further with HR, we do employee engagement and labor relations. So staff appreciation, it looked a little different this year. So, but we have a template now to make that happen again this year if we need to, with the pandemic in mind. So we did an outside event this year. And then doing some training workshops, lunch and learns. We're looking at different committee options. We have a wellness committee, but we're also going to look at a diversity and inclusion committee to make sure that we're being inclusive and working with our local partners in the nation, and considering some virtual initiatives. And then comp and benefits. A lot of my time is taken up with payroll and my connection to finance. So trying to find a better system of tracking and making the time to make that a smoother process. So currently, I won't get too granular here, but realistically, this is what I'm doing. It's tracking annual performance reviews, recruitment and retention. And recruitment and retention always ends up a priority because it's a hole, a gap that we need to fill, and I want to make sure that it's a successful one that we do fill. So I end up with a lot of my time spent there. Labor relations, you can never really know how much time is going to be spent there, but it's kind of, I have an open door policy, and a lot of things come and go in this department in labor relations. Staff appreciation, that'll happen. Training to promote team connections, we already spoke about that, and that's certainly on a high priority list for this year. And then OH&S, a lot of work-safe claims have come in the last few months. And so, yeah, that takes a lot of time in my role. And then as well, looking at contracting out services to one of our health and safety consultants to make sure that we're up to snuff in that area. I counsel the staff. I know I mentioned the open door policy, but yes, I'm a confidential space for people to come talk. And especially in this last year, there's been a lot of that. And which I'm really happy to do, and I'm glad that HR is here for that service. And then daily admin tasks is a large percentage of my role, whether it's probationary letters or mortgage letters, or yeah, again, I won't get too granular there, but there's a big admin component to this role, and then committee involvement. And then with support, this is just I've just emphasized a few of the examples from the previous slides of things that I really think are important that I would like to get to, but I'm going to need some support to be able to commit to that. So as much as the previous slides are part of my work plan, it's probably more in the next few years as opposed to the next few months or this year, just based on the support in the department, if I'm being totally honest, except I'm also very much a yes person. So I'd like to say that I'm going to get it all done, but I'd rather under promise and over deliver. So that's what that is. And then next slide, please. Thanks. And so for staffing asks, I'm looking for OH&S safety coordinator and an HR assistant. And right now we're sort of talking about that being an EA that could be shared with the CAO. If I'm honest, an OH&S coordinator as well as a full-time HR assistant would be my goal for the next 2 to 3 years for the department in HR here, and would be in line with comparable organizations size-wise. And that's what that would look like. And then Dave, you're going to speak a bit to the numbers. Like I know there's one, I've increased the training. So just what I spoke about in the training and trying to improve culture and health and safety. We do have I have an increase in training here, but I'll let Dave speak more specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yep. So this budget area includes human resources and health and safety. And there's, like Lindsay was saying, there's a small, there's a bit of an increase there to planned training, but that's corporate training. That's not like department training, individual department training. The other topic we can just discuss is there is Orca is also included here with the contracted services, and that's another one we've been talking about with trying to cover with the COVID relief funds. So we're going to strategize that, and it'll come back further into the budget process. And so not only was there was some wage increases this year, but our benefits also went up in cost, and we'll see that kind of throughout the whole budget. And included in salaries there is Lindsay and a casual pool, which we've had prior. But other than that, you know. So anyway, so human resources total of $200,810, and health and safety $48,154. Is there any questions there?
Any questions of council? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to dig into a little bit of the training. So like Director Douglas mentioned at the beginning, we have taken into consideration that there may be less traveling through the first part of the year. However, we are still looking at increasing the budget. So I'm just wondering if maybe Lindsay could speak a little more to the increased training that we'd like to see in the next year.
Yeah, so this speaks more, the training piece for me anyways, from coming from the HR department, speaks to the training that we haven't had here at the district. So the leadership management training, looking at so the WRC is looking for a plethora of different training with their team, and it's more, it's not health and safety because that would come from the budget, but leadership in that way. And then when I talked about that personality inventory, and again, I don't want to get too granular, but becoming a trainer for that so that we have programs that can create team building and again, increase that culture. The training piece really it has been overlooked at the district, and there haven't been a lot of training opportunities for folks. And it's a huge direct indicator in retention. So I'm really looking, we have all the people in place, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous that we might lose some of them. And so it's just really important to make sure that our people are happy, and we have a total rewards program, and that includes training.
Okay, so that's less so going to conferences and stuff and more so bringing people in or doing workshops in-house.
Absolutely. And I'm still encouraging all the training. So I had, somebody in Parks the other day say, I don't really want to go to that conference. It's not going to be as much fun, but I'm going to go because the content is still there. So, my HR conference this year, it's going to cost less because of the travel expenses, but it's still, the cost for the conference is still there, and the information is still incredibly valuable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Toth.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions. One of which is, I notice in the 2019 actual and the 2020 adopted, that amortization line for 67,000, that's not in the 2020 actual or in the 2021 budgeted. So just wondering a little bit about that. And also looking at the FTE count on the last line there, nothing about this incorporates either a health and safety coordinator or an admin assistant, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
At this time for 2021, the ask was a half, so a share with administration with the CAO. Right now, the priority with the pandemic funding, I'm really hoping that we can get our health and safety program to where it needs to be sustainable and moving forward. And so that could be covered by that for now. And then in the next couple of years, I'd be able to see how much that's really needed, and are we able to sustain it in-house. So really the priority, if I were dreaming big right now, would be this, a human resources assistant that is not there. But I forgot to say that in my previous presentation, so I used your question, Councillor Toth. Thank you.
The costing on all the staff asks will come through with the ongoing and one-time costs. The amortization there, you can just break that out on your sheet. That actually came through on the corporate services sheet, so it doesn't belong on the sheet.
Okay. Fair enough. Mayor Seegers, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Orca. Dave talked about Orca. Can you tell us what Orca is? I know you and I have had conversations, but I don't think anybody else has heard what that is.
Absolutely. No, we should be more explanatory there. So Orca is a company that comes from Vancouver Island, and the president, worked for WorkSafe BC for 14 years and has started or has bought a company that takes care of health and safety. So they're actually here today and do this for many municipalities. So they've worked with Duncan, a number of mainland municipalities. And for small municipalities, it sometimes doesn't make an awful lot of sense to have a dedicated person, but instead to have somebody to make sure that we're have a smooth ship. So Orca is, they're pros at health and safety, and each of them, there's 3 people working with us, and each of them have 30 years experience in health and safety.
Okay, and I think you, in answering Councillor Todd's question, I think you answered my second question was, you've got 2 staff asks, OH and safety coordinator and an HR assistant. And what you indicated is, of the 2, if we were to say, okay, we're going to give you 1, you'd rather have the HR assistant at this point.
Yes, please.
Yeah, because you have Orca to do some of the preliminary work, and that will help this year determine whether or not we need somebody on staff or not to
Yes.
keep this up. Okay.
Yeah, and that became even more clear after meeting with them. It's you know, they're affordable and will cost less than a health and safety coordinator will moving forward. But I don't even know if we will need them once they get us to a place where we're high functioning in health and safety. And so they're going to be training their supervisors, doing crew talks, jumping into our Josh committee. I think it's going to be a really powerful year for 2021 for the district. But the HR assistant, I wouldn't ask if I thought it wasn't needed. So, you know, looking at comparable sized organizations, they have that and more. And I really want to be able to deliver in these areas and to retain employees and put us on the map as a really great place to work. And not that we aren't already, but to maintain that. And so I think an HR assistant can really help us in that area.
And I know for you this year, I mean, for all staff, but particularly for you this year, it's been really difficult given COVID on top of everything else. And I mean, I know there have been times when, you know, our staff can't come to work because they don't have childcare, or, you know, one of their kids gets the sniffles. And so their, you know, child can't go to daycare. And so they need to be home. And we've got staff working from home, and we have to manage the mental health, you know, pieces of that and work plans. And it's been a lot. And then the rules keep changing and you have to stay on top of all that. So I know it's been really stressful this past year, and this year probably won't be any different. So
No.
I recognize that.
And that's on top of the regular, you know, it's been a constant pivot, but then, you know, we had bargaining this year, and I want all of our employees to feel supported and to be able to have that. And sometimes I feel like I can't do that. So I appreciate the consideration of this ask.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Nope, moving on.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll talk to the admin department. Administration oversees the administration of municipality and its officers, employees, responsible for corporate services, communications, and human resources. Keeps council informed on corporate matters, advises council on policy and other matters, ensures policies are implemented, and liaises with the corporate lawyers. So administration, budgeting here includes training and staff appreciation is included in this area. There's a decline there of $7,200, and that's we had a software that we had a contract for, I believe it was 3 years, and that has run out, and we no longer are using that software. So there's a reduction there of the $7,200. And that's all I had there for that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this one, Council? The raise hand function works really well for me because I'm not flipping through screens. Looks like we're good on this one.
Okay, we're off to communications, and I believe Julie's here to walk us through a couple of departments.
Yeah, thank you. The communications division is comprised of 4 separate functions. That's, oh, somebody changed my division to a department. It's comprised of 4 separate functions: communications, community services, arts and culture, and council support. These are 4 completely separate functions, and oddly enough, 4 completely separate people. I would say this about every department, but this is an extremely high functioning department with very hardworking and dedicated professionals. I think we're very lucky to have them. I will start off with communications. The communications function, as you know, is 1 person and responsible for managing the goals and objectives from the 2018 District Communications Plan, as well as the communications policies and procedures for the organization. Also responsible for internal communications, external communications, the district's engagement policy programs and activities, reputation, brand, marketing, media relations, proactive issues identification and management. Some of the tools that we use, but certainly not limited to, social media, the website, and the district app being the main ones that we control. This position is also responsible for the visitor information contract and services, crisis communications, and the supervision and management of our community services, arts and culture, and council support. Next slide, please. The work plan for this position is really kind of a fluid plan because this position works in support of all of our departments. You can see from item number 4 on this list, if all of these projects go forward this year, that is a full-time job doing engagement on all of those projects. All of those projects could disappear. They are often budget dependent, staff time dependent, the will of council dependent. So if those all go away and I don't have to do those, I would certainly like to do some community engagement and a review of the district communications plan. It was passed in 2018, and it was really intended to just be a 3-year plan and then step back, do a review, talk to the community. Are they getting the information they want? What information are they looking for? What platforms would they like to receive it on? Those kinds of things. So that would certainly be something we would like to do this year. Update our community profile. It hasn't been updated since 2019. We would also like to do some department videos this year, especially now that we have a new director in engineering that's keen to do these kinds of things. So we can, show for the community some of the work that we do, a little bit of a day in the life, and this is how we take care of your community, to really help to explain what we do and what services we provide so that the community has a better understanding. It's easier to participate in the budget process when you know what the thing is that you're talking about. Also this year, as you know, we'll be rolling out some organics services in hopefully the fall. So that will involve quite a lot of organics and recycling education. A couple of items that are dependent on budget. If I've requested funding to rebuild the website, so that will be quite an extensive project if funding is received for that. We've applied for a grant to replace all of our wayfinding signs. Again, that will be quite a large project. And coming before you at a meeting soon will be an ask to use some of the COVID grant funds to purchase a mobile unit for the Visitor Information Center. So if we get budget for that, then that will be some of the other projects that we'll be working on this year. Next slide, please. Next is community services. Community services is responsible for the booking of those 3 facilities that you saw in that slide and the pier. A large part of this position is the facility booking, but that's marketing the facilities, managing inquiries, viewings, the booking, the contract, the invoices, the refunds, the sanitizing of the facilities in between uses. That's a big part of the position. Next slide, please. But the rest of the position is or has become implementing safety protocols for all of the community facilities. So appropriate signage and practices for all of the facilities so that people can book them and use them in a safe manner. This position also manages the maintenance and the improvements of the community facilities so that we can ensure that they are safe, that we're protecting our assets, and that they have the features that our community needs. These are facilities that are owned by our community, and we want to make sure that they are fully used by the community and in a way that meets their needs. This position also manages the janitorial services for the district buildings and liaises with community groups. This is different than arts and culture in that this is really programming. It's, if you think about communities that have rec centers and they offer programs to their citizens, this position has been responsible for working with different community groups to provide events in our facilities. The winter market, where the farmers market was last year, was created by this position, as well as, Christmas parade, Bright Nights at Rockwood, and there's a number of other events that have taken place in our facilities that have been really spearheaded by our community services coordinator. This position also manages the Business Watch program and manages the Sunshine Coast Community Task Force and provides administrative support for the Community Investment Program. If time allows, other administrative support would be lovely from coming out of this position, but that hasn't been something that we've been able to do so far. Next slide, please. In 2021, this position will be working with a couple of community groups on possibly COVID dependent, budget dependent, all of those things, a wine festival, more winter market, and some more Christmas events at Rockwood Lodge and at the Writers Festival theater there. We purchased some booking software recently, and we're just going to finalize the setting up of that. It's been quite a lot of work to get the software implemented to help us with managing the booking. I mean, it's something it'll provide us some better data than the umpteen Excel spreadsheets we've been using, and help us a little bit with the contracts and invoicing. We will be drafting some rental policies and procedures and an operations manual for our community facilities. Just on the love and care that goes into taking care of these buildings, we need some sort of an operations manual, and an off-coast travel dependent, COVID dependent, a marketing plan to attract more visitors from off-coast to renting our buildings. But budget dependent is we've applied for quite a few grants for upgrades to our facilities. If we get those grants, we probably won't be able to do any of the other things on the list because there will be quite a lot of work to go into upgrading our facilities to meet the community needs. We're also anticipating that once the gathering restrictions are lifted, we will have a backlog of family events, funerals, weddings, and a lot of people on coast who will need facilities to host the events that they've been putting off. So we're expecting to be really busy once those restrictions are lifted. Next slide, please. Arts and culture is really valued in our community. It's the thing that we have that connects us. I think in a lot of ways, this is the most important function that the district provides to our citizens. It's our public art, our festivals and events, our community archives, our heritage, and our community investment program. Next slide, please. The public art collection is comprised, it's a program that supports our local artists, but it also provides a vibrancy and an identity for Sechelt. We really are an arts community, and our public art collection really showcases that for our citizens and for our visitors. We have 22 permanent works of art in our collection, as well as we have a number of what are sort of more temporary public art, and that's the vinyl wraps that we've been doing on the hydro boxes, our street banners, and our crosswalks. We also, next slide, please. Can you back up one, Dave? I think you, no, sorry, they're just out of order from what I had. Thank you. Our festivals and events, the district encourages and supports festivals and events in our community, but we also host our own. We have the Seashelt Art Festival, the Summer Music Series, and Canada Day. Those events will look different this year. They looked different last year, but we're not anticipating any budget changes. Next slide, please. Cultural heritage and community archives. Our archives started with the Helen Daw collection in 1996. We are hoping this year to take advantage of the COVID relief grant and the scanning that we need to do in the district office for our own records and possibly digitize some of our archive collection, which would be amazing because it'll make it much more available to people. Right now, you would have to go in to the archives to access them. The archives moved in 2020 to the a much larger, nicer facility in Trail Bay Mall, and with great appreciation to Trail Bay Mall for helping to make that happen for us. The heritage is also a really important part of the Seashelt Arts Festival. And the District of Seashelt partners on the Sayaya Yat Reconciliation Movement, where we share Shishal culture through weaving and carving and other community events. And our arts and culture coordinator sits on that group and works with them on those things. As well, the heritage signs in Davis Bay will hopefully be completed this year. Next slide, please. And finally, the community investment program grants, student bursaries. These are not, people think of these as grants to charities. These are investments in our community. These are, the District of Seashelt gives away quite a large amount of money through this program, in addition to the Sunshine Coast Community Forest grants. And it really supports our community groups in doing the things that make our community a really great place to live. When we talk about building community and livable communities, and these are the people who are doing that work. And so this program really supports that work in our community. And our arts and culture coordinator manages all of this for us as well. Next slide, please. And so there are 2 capital projects as part of the work plan for 2021, and they are both already funded. There's 2 artist design crosswalks for Trail Avenue. The designs have already been selected. We're just waiting to put them in the road. And the Hackett Park stage, which was funded through a federal grant. And we're working now on getting a design for that and hopefully putting out an RFP a little bit later. Our arts and culture coordinator is working with the parks manager on this joint project. Next slide, please. Council support. Sorry, there's a slide missing there. The work plan for the arts and culture coordinator also involves the changing of our three events. There will be a great deal of work going into trying to manage our community events during COVID times, and the 2 crosswalks and the stage and the heritage signs in Davis Bay this year. And all of that will take place with that 1 person who is, and that is a part-time position. Council support is council's executive assistant. Next slide. Thanks, Dave. This position probably spends about 70% of this position is just on council correspondence. And the rest of it is meetings, events, travel, expenses, taking notes at meetings. This is not necessarily like council meetings, but a meeting with the mayor and a community group, somebody will attend, the executive assistant will attend and take notes at that meeting. She's also responsible for all in-camera agendas and minutes, produces the internal newsletter for us, which has been a weekly thing to try to keep us all connected, especially now. Assist with community engagement projects. Whenever we have community engagement projects, there's really quite a lot of work to pulling it all together, and she assists with that as well. assists with the annual production of our annual report. Provides administrative support to all of our departments, council reports, quarterly reports, presentations, providing research for them, grant applications. This position has provided support to other departments in their grant applications, but also for the first time, spent a couple of weeks applying for a grant to build a daycare. So that was a learning opportunity. And provides assistance for RFPs and RFQs and purchase orders and that kind of administrative work, and sits on our joint occupational health and safety committee. Next slide, please. So our ask is for an administrative assistant to support all 4 of these positions. The communications support would be just in the administrative role, visa reconciliations, public inquiries, purchase orders, updating the website, more support on social media, public engagement, event support. Hopefully we can get somebody to help with the internal newsletter, or if we move to an intranet, just some help in that area. Council support, we could really use a lot of support in this area. Note-taking, travel booking, editing reports, council correspondence. It is more than a full-time job at present. Arts and culture could use some assistance. We've got a lot of photos and other documents for festivals and events that need to be documented better, and so that we've got documents and records for all of our events. And preparation for like the community meetings. The community investment program involves a committee and quite a few meetings, note-taking, assistance with RFQs, RFPs, support with just organizing Canada Day would be huge. When we have, we will put out a call to artists for our street banners and the hydro boxes and other things. We could use some assistance with the art juries that select the art for those. And our community services coordinator. At present, if she goes on vacation, we're in a lot of trouble. We could really use some backup for that position. As well, we're finding that just with the viewings and the bookings and assistance that the people who are booking our facilities need, we could really use an extra person who can dash out and help whenever needed. And some basic administrative support, invoicing, visa reconciliation, things like that. So that is what we are asking for the communications division. And I'm happy to take your questions.
All right, thanks, Julie. Any questions? Councillor Toth.
The mayor actually had her hand up first, so I'm gonna
That's
turn to
okay.
her.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
All right. I noticed, Julie, in the 2021 sort of engagement plan, you did have the East Porpoise Bay Esplanade listed on there. And I just wanted to say that I'm excited to see that moving forward. There's not a lot of trail infrastructure out on the east side, so it'll be nice to see something moving forward there.
All right, thank you, Mayor Seegers.
Thank you. I know you came forward last year with a budget proposal for a website rebuild. We said no at that time. I have heard councillors say over the year that that was probably something we should have put forward last year, because we're recognizing that through COVID, a lot of the connections that the community has with us is through our website. One of the things that I'm seeing out there is a real focus with the community web, or with a municipality website, on community engagement. So these surveys, for example, that kind of stuff on the website, easy to find, easy to have the community see what's open, what we're looking for information on. I'm hearing about something called Bang the Table. I know you're probably aware of that, but in the redesign of the website, would something like, play, speak, or whatever they're called, some of that kind of stuff be incorporated into the website? so that all of these separate projects that we're doing with separate pieces would actually be incorporated?
Cautiously, yes. Bang the Table is extremely expensive. Play Speak I've used before. It is extremely expensive. But I've worked with a web designer in the past to create a platform within the website that we own, we manage, we control, where you can have a chat room, you can upload it, you can add an interactive map, you can post the surveys. So hopefully we can come up with something that's built into the website rather than a separate software program. Often those programs, they're really expensive and you haven't bought them, you've rented them, so you're paying every year, and then you have a year where you've only got, you know, 2 things that you're engaging on, but you still spent $20,000 on it. So yes, I'm familiar with them all, and they're beautiful programs, but I'm hoping to do something that we can own and control and that's a little bit less expensive.
Okay, then I have a question for Dave. In the budget information that's given to us here, or the financial information, what is included in there?
So there's nothing new included in there. So firstly, we're looking at the communications budget, and so there's salaries and benefits at the top, and there's contract services that include advertising and other services. And then under supplies and materials is the printing and supplies that the communications department would need.
So the website, like any of those proposals, the website, the AA, all that kind of stuff is not included in here yet?
No.
I believe the website, though I'm asking for the website, I believe that's a line item in the IT budget.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think the app, our app is also over there.
The app is in the IT budget, yes. The website is in the one-time cost coming up. So
Okay.
their AA will be in the one-time cost coming up in a future meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Not. All right, continuing on. Director Douglas.
Okay, just want to talk quickly about the arts and culture budget here. You'll see that there's a $50,000 reduction in grants, and that is the community COVID grant that the district gave out last year. So it's not included in this year's budget, obviously. And other than that, it's, you know, really a status quo budget from year to year. So mayor and council, their budget area. So council and they are the regulatory and budgetary policies. They also drive the strategic and priority planning, community leadership, participate in communities and committees and public communication, as well as intergovernment relations. And of course, you're at the top, and we all answer to council, and they give us the direction that we need to do our jobs. In the budget here, once again, if we know that one of the conference is virtual, you know, we've reduced the development or the professional development there. Small increase in the salary and benefits line, but that's not a salary increase. That's just additional cost to our benefits plan for the year. And just to make sure the public knows that. And other than that, yeah, nothing added.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this part of it? Mayor Seegers?
Thank you. I know one of the items that we have requested that the CAO look at is like what we get paid. I know the regional district just finished doing that there, and I don't think it's been done for years and years and years in the district of Sechelt. So looking at, are the salaries that, these positions get paid in line with what they should be or not? Where would that work be budgeted for? Would that come under mayor and council, or would it come under HR, or would it come under CAO? And is it budgeted?
There's no budget in there for a review at this point.
Okay.
Either the CAO or human resources could, manage the process. That would be up to the CAO to decide how we would like to run that. But yeah, you're right. It hasn't been looked at for a number of years, and it should be done every 3 to 5 years for sure.
Yeah, I think the timing, what we're looking at is, if it gets done this year, it could then be put in place for the next council, right? So it doesn't impact us, but it's in place for next year for election.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the 2020 adopted versus the 2020 actual, somehow in there we saved almost $50,000 in salaries, wages, and benefits. I'm just curious about that.
The 2020 actuals are only till November, and so we're going through the year-end process. And once we're majority through that, this will be completely updated.
Okay, and then my follow-up question was, with professional development and dues, recognizing that 2020 was a bit of a special year, but we're going to probably, most of 2021 is going to be the same. I'm just wondering if there should be a bigger reduction for 2021 in professional development and dues, because we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
So there is a very good chance of that, but we started off by saying, okay, we know these ones are virtual. We'll budget those at virtual. These ones later in the year, we don't know yet. And we'll get to know by the end of the budget process, and we will make that adjustment for sure.
Okay, thank you.
I just didn't want to, so this is still not up to the 2019 levels, right? Because there's still a mixture here of going away and not going away. And so, any increases or decreases here, would likely need to be added for back next year when we're back to hopefully normal.
Councillor McLean, you did have your hand up. Did you change your mind?
Councillor Toth got my question.
Ah. All right, sounds good. Anybody else? All right, we can keep going on.
Okay, financial services. So we provide the financial functions for the District of Sechelt, which include taxation, financial statements, financial controls, collections, billing, statutory requirements that are included in the community charter, information technology. You probably add policy development, bylaw development, a number of other things. So in our work plan this year, we have what we would call our OnBase filing phase 2. We still have a little bit to do on phase 1, which is transferring our electronic documents. But phase 2 would be taking some of the paper files that are either in files or in books and scanning those and filing them into OnBase. So we have talked about that as a department, and that is one of our priorities for this year. There's a couple of policies that are required to be either updated or new. And we'd like to look at a couple of our bylaws, whether it be fees and charges or, sewer bylaws, and just look at freshening those up, rewriting them. We have, over the last number of years, the workload within accounts payable and payroll, that function is done by one person, has really increased, whether it's due to regulation or just due to our purchasing practices have increased over the last year. So we're looking at that one position and seeing how we can keep that position. Either we have to split it into two, or we have to look for some efficiencies there. So we're working with that staff member. Optimize VADM. Our VADM, we can always enhance our use of VADM, and so we're looking at trying to do that. And that may even include some online services that aren't currently on our website. Succession planning, cross training, career and leadership development. So we've been, lots of discussion here, and working with the current staff to find out what their long range goals are for working, and making sure that training is provided to, if it works for us and them, that we train them appropriately. And then we're working on a department work plan within our staff to make sure we capture all the dates that are important to us, and also looking at workflow management. So other priorities that we have is obviously we want to focus on the fiscal sustainability of the municipality, building relationships with other departments and stakeholders, other partners, whether it be suppliers or others, creating efficiencies through technology and process improvement, mentoring and leadership, and skill development. So our ask is, we are, as I said earlier, we have one position that's becoming a little bit overloaded. We've been able to manage it by having another staff member assist. However, it's ongoing. It's not a 1 month thing or a 2 month thing, and it has been building over the years. And so we're looking at potentially splitting the duties down the road, and just wanted to make sure that council was aware of that. And the other one that we felt would be help us be more efficient would be a procurement officer, likely a union staff. The next slide shows it as a manager position, but I don't think that's the intention. This person could either report to finance or engineering. Engineering does a majority of the purchasing within the district. We just want to put this on the radar because we believe there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained. So that's the left side of our organizational chart, and the future payroll person at the bottom, and a procurement person in the middle. So to financial services, the $25,000 at the bottom is the increase from a contingency back to $100,000 where it was in 2019. Little bit of an increase to professional development, and that's just due to the fact we don't know whether all our training is going to be virtual or if it's going to be in person, especially in the fall time. But obviously, if it is, it will be adjusted. And other than that, we're planning for a decrease in some of our sales and services. people are not obviously coming in as much as they had in the past. And so we're finding that, whether we sell photocopies or we're selling, other things that are in our bylaws, other documents, that our revenues just are not reaching where we thought they would be last year. So we're reducing them for this year. Is there any questions?
Any questions of the group? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, thank you. On the increase for contingency, could you just remind me what this contingency is for?
This is just for our unplanned expenditure throughout the year. This could be anything from roads to storm to, anything within the office, a piece of machinery breaking down that we need to replace right away. But it is not specific to any one department within the general operating fund.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it was that general and not just finance contingency.
Oh, no.
Excellent.
Mayor Seegers.
Thank you. So one of the bylaws I think that council is looking to have rewritten is the DCC bylaw. Like that. So I didn't hear you mention it in your list, but that's one that I think our last chief financial officer was looking at doing and then left, right? Moved on to his other position. So the asks that you have are basically 2 people, one to either take on accounts payable and or payroll, and the other is a procurement officer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else that we don't have in here?
At this point, no.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor McLean.
Yeah, thank you. On the payroll side, have we looked at going out of house for payroll? I know a couple small businesses who have done that recently to fairly good success, but obviously we're a lot larger than that. So just wondering if it's a consideration.
It hasn't been up till now, but we have 78 employees about, and benefits. I would have to look at prepare a business case to look at whether it would be more affordable or more advantageous that way or not.
Yeah, I've heard some successes on the smaller scale, so
Right.
it might be something to consider.
Okay.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes, Dave, both those positions, do you see them as full-time or part-time?
I would see them as full-time. There's always, there's things that we do now that we don't get, that are on our list to do that we don't get to. So, although we may be able to do some shifting within the department for the interim, long-term, most places, or a lot of places with 70 plus employees have 2 positions, one for accounts payable and one for payroll. I mean, I think it was 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we had 2 people doing those jobs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rowe got most of my question there, and Councillor McLean my question before that. So with the, rather than it being 2 people, could it be an incremental lift? Could we look at a half-time payroll and half-time purchasing, and then, in 2022, maybe we take one of those positions up to a full-time? I'm just looking at staggering rather than hiring 2 people to put into a department when we might be able to get away with 1.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously at a future meeting, we're also going to be coming back with human resources planning for the next number of years as well. So Lindsay and myself are working on that with other departments. So yeah, absolutely. It's it's too busy for one, but is it busy enough for two? You know, that is a great question. I mean, overall, it would be nice to have the two so we can get to, you know, some of the other work. But absolutely, we would look at, you know, staggered approach.
Councilor Rowe, your hand's still up. Are you good or no?
I'm sorry, I'm new at the hand thing, but just to comment to what Director Douglas just spoke about a future meeting, I'd really appreciate some historical data around number of employees and like you just mentioned, two people used to be looking after accounts payable. So that would be helpful for me in looking at staff asks.
Okay.
Mayor Seegers.
Thank you. Just to follow up to Councillor Rowe, would you be looking for historical for all departments or for finance only?
Well, I don't want to make a huge make work project, but I'm interested in historically how various departments have grown in relation to what we've asked them to do. And I'm also interested in what like-sized communities, you know, have for staffing.
Okay. Are you clear on that, Director Douglas?
Yes.
Perfect. Anybody else like to add? Comment? And seeing no hands, onward. IT.
Okay, information technology. Many things going on there these days. Work plan highlights, system documentation, which is really ongoing all the time. OPIS management and support. Investigate virtual desktop infrastructure. Enhancing our GIS data and documentation. Security awareness and training. That's been a big focus this year and will continue next year. Infrastructure and governance, cybersecurity enhancements. Once again, really our focus turned to that last year and it will continue for 2021. CityWorks implementation, PLL, asset management, really the continuation of our ERP program with the added staff, recent staff in building inspection and in engineering. Hopefully will give us afford us the time to continue with this implementation. Software version upgrades for 5 corporate software systems, relocate business continuity hardware to SCRD. So that's we're working on having some of our backups housed at the SCRD. Update hardware, including network storage and user computing devices, and looking at our audiovisual equipment at the council meeting room and the Seaside Center for virtual meetings. So over the last year, we have really had to refocus on keeping our system more secure than ever. Reliable, as we have more people working from home. We still have integration of our systems, top of mind, but just with the lack of staff and our refocus, we'll get back to integration, and obviously keeping our softwares efficient and keeping our staff efficient with the use of our softwares. So the information technology ask here is hire full-time unionized technician support specialist under the supervision of the information technology manager. We've had, significant growth in the equipment that we use over the years, whether it's mobile phones, computers, laptops, tablets. And, Bev is runs pretty hard most days to try and keep up, and is always going. So it's would be a great help for her to have that person. So that's the right side of our organizational chart. Just adding the one person there, application system analyst. And the budget here. The staff salaries and benefits, a bit of more of an increase here. This to capture the remainder of, because we cut out part of the salary last year for our GIS coordinator. So let's just bring it back to full level. We have the $15,000 increases due to annual increases for our softwares, including the new software BookKing that we're using for our facility management. Nutanix, the license is new in here as well. And then Office 365 backup license is also included there, which has increased that budget a bit. And I believe that's it for IT.
Any questions from the crowd? Okay, I have a question. The contract services on this one, Director Douglas, is that primarily Opus?
It's primarily Opus, yes.
So if there was another staff person on, would that decrease, or do we have a flat contracted rate?
Yeah, that wouldn't decrease. We still need that. The extra person would be able to help Bev really. She's one of our busiest staff, especially with having everybody working from home and transitioning to a different working environment really.
Okay, thank you. Anybody? Seeing none. Onward. Non-departmental.
So non-departmental, this is just a costing area in our budget. It captures revenues, expenses, and debt payments that are really not as attached or associated to a department. And so it includes the debt, principal payments, investment income, grants and donations. And this area I would say is the most incomplete. It's complete to the information we have, but when we will be loading this up with more information as we go forward with regards to grants that we're going to use for capital, transfers from reserves and things like that. So that this is just a general area that's non-departmental. You see our penalties and interest. We're planning that it'll be greater this year over last year's budget. Brings it back, I think, up to, we thought last year we budgeted less in this area because we thought that the penalties and interest were going to be less. In the end, they end up being more, as you can see there. But so we brought it back up to closer to our 2019 levels here for this year. What else? Once again, the return on investment there, we've kept it steady. We did better than the 240 this year. However, we interest rates are down just a little bit, And although we have a little bit more cash on hand right now, we just think it'll balance off to the same amount as in previous years. The other item there was principal on debt payments increase there, primarily due to the plotter and the dump truck that we purchased, that we're purchasing.
All right, Mayor Seegers, I think you hit the button first.
I think the others were on first, actually. I'm just watching, could you go back to the previous slide? I saw it was debt principal payments, investment income. Okay, so just looking at trying to understand this is kind of a holding account, it looks like. So, because when we get grants, and you correct me in all this if I'm totally misspeaking, but when we get a grant, we can't actually recognize it as revenue until we have expenses or are doing something with the project. And so it has to kind of sit here, we've got the money, but we can't actually put it to the project until it moves forward. Is that right? And this is where it would go?
So it depends on the grant a bit. If it's like pay as you go,
Yeah,
so we incur the expense and then we make application to get the money back,
right.
then the money that will flow into here when we get it, right?
Okay,
And so the one that is held a little, or the one that's treated a little differently is if they give you the majority of the money up front, right? And then you pay for expenses as you go, right? And I believe the treatment to that one is actually you got to recognize it right away, that grant. And so that's where you would could have a split over year end where you've recognized the revenue and then the next year you have a bunch of expenses, right? And no grant revenue in that next year because you've recognized it already.
okay.
But yes, this is the area that would house that, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor McLean.
Yeah, just a question on debt. So a quick one. The loan for the operations center wouldn't show up on this year. It would show up in 2022. Okay, so I got a head nod. Yes, it's 2022. And just so for my understanding, principal on debt, so we are currently paying $557,000 for previous debt that we're already committed to.
Yes, that's primarily the RCMP and Justice Stone.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Toff.
Thank you, Chair. Given this is sort of the non-departmental section, I'm just wondering for public clarity, what have you, if that $100,000 contingency would be better off being reported in here than over in financial services. Because when I read the chart, I thought that contingency was for something in the financial services department initially. So just some feedback there.
Okay, yeah, I think why it's been in finance for years, and I think it's because finance would have a part in putting a report together to spend that money. I think it's not money that I would normally spend without taking a report to council. So it's kind of in the control of us. However, I get your comment that this may, this is also really watched. This area is watched by finance, so it would work here as well.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, on to economic development.
So economic development, our area there includes the four organizations: Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development Organization at 87,000, visitor information at 50,000, Sunshine Coast Tourism for 12,800, and the Seashell Downtown Business Association for 70,000. I believe the Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development Organization, I believe their contract expired recently, and I believe there'll be a report coming to council soon on that one. So, you know, other than that one, we're not anticipating any differences at this point. So this is just the budget area for that, and the business, the Seashell Downtown Business Association 70 grand is funded from taxation. So it's a area specific taxation. So the general taxation doesn't pay for it. It's just the downtown business area.
Okay, Councillor McLean.
So if I'm understanding these numbers correctly, all of our economic development funds are shifted off to other organizations, and we do not currently have an economic development budget for in-house operations.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. And airport next.
Okay, Seashell Airport. So finance department is the first contact for the airport. There's fuel services there. There's airport terminal building that is shared space with one of the clubs up there. We do have an airport manager that's on site, and he gets the monthly stipends from the district. Recently we've had several inquiries for these areas, and we're going to be talking with those folks. We have been talking with them, and we'll continue talking with them. We also work on lease compliance, keeping people within their area, making sure they're doing what they should be doing there. And we have some money included in the budget for surveying of lease areas. It's a couple areas that we need to focus on, and we intend to do that this year. This is the budget for that. The contracted services amount, there's a small elevation there of 5 grand. We have fencing going down around the back that there's growth starting to grow into the fence and will eventually potentially ruin the fence. So our manager there has asked us to put some money aside to take the vegetation out of the fence. And so we're looking at that. A little bit of reduction in materials and supplies. That's just due to we're not selling quite as much gas up there as we had in the past. So that's just a recognition of the cost of the gas going down. And obviously there's sale of fuel there too. That's a little bit less than what it was in previous years. And we do transfer annually to a reserve. It's a non-statutory reserve at this point. So the plan is for 13,000 to move there in 2021.
Councillor Toth.
Thank you, Chair. The airport reserve that we do have, can I just get a reminder of the balance that's in it now, and what sort of items is it sufficient for us to be funding any work that we do up there, or is it really just to cover deficit situations like 2020 saw?
Yeah, it's very low. It's not a lot of money. I'm almost thinking that there's only 2 years worth of money in there. So probably I will be reviewing all the reserve balances with council at a future meeting, but I know it's low. It's probably, $30,000 or less. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. I think that pretty much wraps up our list there.
Okay, I have one last wrap-up slide here, but future meetings. So Future meetings, we'll continue with the presentations. We have the planning, development, bylaws, building inspection department, engineering, parks and public works, RCMP. I'd like to invite the library and Sunshine Coast Tourism, human resources strategy that we want to provide to council, and any other groups that we want to bring in to present. We also want to review with council our one-time costs, the new ongoing or one time, as well as capital and projects, as well as the reserve balances. So that's kind of the agenda going forward from this point.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And there was an ask for James to pop online and introduce himself.
Just before we do that, Chair, I think we need a motion to have received that presentation.
Oh yeah, I guess we did forget that. Motion to receive that report. It's seconded. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder there. All right, yeah, you had a bit of a reprieve, but James, you're going to have to come on and say hello.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hello to members of the Committee of the Whole. It's a pleasure to be here with you and get my feet wet with the budget process here in the District of Sechelt. Thanks for having me.
Can we see you?
Oh. Not much to see. Let me see if I can sort this out, Mayor. Hang on a sec. I'm waiting for my little drop down to appear. It's not. Here we go.
And for those following along at the moment on YouTube, you are our new.
I am your new chief building official. So I come to you by way of the city of Colwood on Vancouver Island, and I was the manager of building inspections and bylaw services there for a year, and saw fit for a variety of reasons to relocate up here to lovely Sechelt, a place that my family and I have visited and enjoyed very much over the past years. It's really a great opportunity for us to reside here.
Well, that's great. It's great to have you on board. Mayor Seegers, you had a comment?
Yes, I recently took part in the Local Government Leadership Academy, and one of the breakout rooms, I was with one of the counselors from Colwood and mentioned that you were over here, and he said, we got a good guy. So kudos. Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. All right. Anything else before we go to questions from the gallery? Councilor McLean.
I would like to move that the meeting be adjourned.
Seconded. All in favor?